Well, it's going to be a sad one today. We're back in Hollywood for Matthew Roberts Memorial. Yeah, I wish that I were here on other circumstances, but unfortunately our friend Matthew Roberts has passed away. And we're going to memorialize and celebrate his life tonight, and I was asked to help give the eulogy. So I'm going to share the events as one last tribute to Matthew today.
And I would like to send my deepest condolences to his friends and family who are learning of Matthew's passing today. I say today because they will be watching this video for the first time. It's going to go to their family, his friends in Illinois, and everybody who knew him around the world. All right, we have a list of speakers this evening. We're going to start off with a friend of Matthew, someone who's been a friend of Matthew for 24 years, former manager of his band New Rising Sun, Vicki Hamilton.
Thanks for coming out. You know, the first time that I met Matthew was, he sang right here. He jumped up and he sang with a band called Corel. And there was like all these whispers about him, and he was like fantastic. And when he was done performing, he ran out this door, and I like chased him down the street, and I was like, I grabbed him by his coat, and I was like, I go, "Hi Matthew, I'm Vicki." And he goes, "I know who you are." Scared the shit out of me. But and that started our friendship, and he was like an amazing creative, an amazing piano player, singer, songwriter. You know, he wasn't like anybody that I ever met before, because he could say like the most brilliant thing that would have you like going to Google and like researching it. And then you know, all these like deep, amazing thoughts, but he never knew what day it was or what time it was. And I know that I have at least 40 phone numbers for him in my phone right now. You know, it's like he couldn't hold on to anything, you know. It's like he was such a free spirit. But you know, I became the manager of New Rising Sun, which John was also in the band. And they made incredible demos. They packed out Bar Sinister. This place was so special to him. He read tarot cards here as well. And, you know, it was like a really honor to like represent him for me. And, you know, I feel sad that he never got the huge recognition, because he should have. And, you know, there is music out there. You've been hearing some of it here tonight. Yeah, so I just want to talk a minute about his intuitive ability. You know, he could have probably been like a Tyler Henry type guy if he had really developed that skill, because he was so good at picking up on things and like figuring things out for people. And one of the things, he saved my life. It's like I was living in this guest house in Hollywood, and he came over, and I was like really, really sick. They were giving me blood transfusions, you know, spinal taps, all these things. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. And he said, you know, Vicki, I think there's mold in here. And I was like, really? I mean, there was no visible mold or smell of mold, but he just knew. And I had this friend that like did insurance claims, and he got the guy to come check it, and sure enough, 3 types of mold in there. One which was black mold. There was like a pipe underneath the house that broke, and that's what was like making me sick. I mean, you know, I may have died if it wasn't for him, you know. And I know he read a lot of people and helped them with their families and their crises and whatever. And a lot of times he wouldn't take money for it. I mean, you know, he didn't care about money. That wasn't his thing, you know. And just, we spent a lot of time together, holidays, and we both felt like orphans. He was always on a quest for finding his true self. And I'm glad that he finally did. Unfortunately, he had to die soon after, but he was a great human being. He would like fish out bees out of the swimming pool. I mean, like crazy shit, you know? But, you know, I feel very lucky to have known him. And I saw him just a few days before he died, and he came over and read my tarot cards, and he like told me that he was having trouble breathing, and I told him he needed to like go get that checked out. But you know, he had had a hernia operation. I don't know what the correlation was with that, but you know, it still seems very surreal to me that this has happened. But I loved him like a brother, and I hope that wherever he is now is at peace. Thank you. So, one person I introduced Matthew to was Jordan the Lion, who's going to like speak now. He's like a very famous blogger, and Matthew did several hours with him, and I'll let you take it from here. Jordan the Lion.
I was introduced to Matthew by Vicki because I like to meet and have people that have interesting stories tell me their story. And Vicki told me that he was a great tarot card reader, and that he thought that maybe Charles Manson might possibly have been his father. So who wouldn't want to hear that story? So we meet up, and I meet him, and I go, for sure this guy thinks he is. And then he tells me a story, and it's all, well, might it was always a situation of, well, there's just a lot of things that are adding up, but I don't know. Never really had any agenda in any time that I ever talked to him. And so after the first time, we started talking, and turns out we both moved to Hollywood to go to Musicians Institute together. I mean, or not together, but we both moved here for that reason. And then when he invited me to come see him in his practice space, and he had some letters and stuff he wanted to show me, turns out that was where my practice space was. So we found all kinds of weird correlations, and every time that we would make a video, people that didn't even know him would say, I don't care if this guy is Manson's son or not, there's something about him that I like. And it was hundreds of thousands of people that didn't know him that were saying, I don't know what it is about this guy, but he seems so sweet. And I'm here to tell you, every time I talked to him, he was that sweet. He was always asking how I was first. How have you been? What have you been up to? You'd meet up with him, and then, you'd find out through the grapevine that he didn't have any money. So one time, I call him and I say, hey, I got a couple $100 I want to give to you. And he goes, oh, really? That'd be great. I don't have anything right now. So we met up, and all of a sudden I said, hey, people want to have tarot card readings with you. I know you're not, you don't want to make any money, but what about $20? He said, do you think that'd be ethical? I said, you're giving your time, and you have an ability. He got so overwhelmed with people sending him messages wanting to talk to him, I think he had to quit responding, because ever since his passing, I have gotten countless emails from people saying, I met Matthew because of your vlog. I saw him talking. I emailed him. And for the last 3 years, we have been friends. He's helped me through hard times in my life. And I'm going, these are all people that never got to meet him. People that, didn't know him from anyone on the street. And he reached out and made a difference in their life. And so it was probably 6 months ago, he contacted me and said, I know who my father is now. I've done a genealogy, and I just don't trust anybody. I think anytime that I do anything, somebody has an agenda. So I was hoping maybe you would put it out, because I want to be the one to tell the world the truth. I said, sure. I said, I can't get out there for a couple of months. He said, I'll wait. I've been holding on to it all this time. I'll wait till you get out here. So we got together, and I just turned the camera on and let him tell everything that he wanted to tell. And throughout that, he ended up telling us that he was sick and that he was having trouble breathing, telling us that he found out everything. And the coolest, I think, thing that came out of it was he said, I can finally move on. I've never been able to make money off my own music because I always felt like people only cared about me because I might be someone else's son. And now everybody knows the truth, and now people can like me for me. And I said, yeah, I said, people love you, dude. I said, I'm telling you, when I read the comments, it's never about, oh, he wants this or that. It's always, this guy seems so nice. So as soon as I posted, I found out, was told that Matthew passed, I thought, he always would tell me, like, I trust you more than anybody to tell my story. So I just wanted to let people know for this occasion, if they wanted to come out and see him. And 160,000 people have watched that video that don't even know Matthew, that love Matthew. So even though he didn't get the recognition, I think, in his life, a lot of people loved the music that we put in the video to share that was his music, him performing it, and now want to hear his music. So hopefully his legacy will live on through everyone that loved him. And I feel like his personality really showed when you turned the camera on. He never ever had an agenda, never asked for anything other than just fairness. And I talked to him 2 nights before he passed away, and he was worried about his car getting towed. And I just think, my God, he was almost dying, and he was worried about something so silly that we all deal with. And I think, his untimely passing should be a reminder to everybody to tell the people you love that you love them, and make the most out of every day that you can, because everybody in this room was touched by Matthew in some way or another, and I hope everybody tells how that happened tonight. So thank you.
Though Matthew's family was unable to attend, they asked me to share these thoughts with you today. Let's see. Matthew's family, Joanne, Diane, and Peter, would like to thank everyone for being here today. We don't think of Matthew as adopted, he is family. Matthew had a normal childhood in a Midwestern town with his larger, immediate family close by. Birthdays, holidays, and church were a family affair. His dad worked and his mom stayed home with the kids. Matthew was one of 3 children. We had 18 wonderful years with him before he decided to go off and follow his dream of music. We are proud of him and all he had achieved. Thanks to everyone along the way who helped Matthew in some way. We are grateful for all his friends and acquaintances throughout the years. Our next speaker, who's actually here, thank you, Colleen, has been friends with Matthew for 20 years. Colleen Butler.
So late afternoon on September 3rd, I was driving north in the Grapevine, approaching the summit. Suddenly my gauge lights flashed and the temperature shot up. I was startled and it was unexpected. My car never had problems. I managed to dip into a turnout and waited out. An hour later, I topped off the coolant. The car fired right up and I was on my way and the car was fine. Next exit, Fraser Park. And I thought of Matt, and he was so proud of that lot he had there. It was an impressive piece of forest. The sort of property that kind of inspired big dreams. Matt and I were friends and worked colleagues from 1999 to 2014. We spent hours dissecting conspiracies and reading the room for our own amusement and sharing bits of each other's daily occurrences. Matt's laugh was booming, sincere, and was contagious. He never missed a cue while he was DJing. I don't know how he did, but he didn't. Matt created the ambiance of a good night with his enthusiasm, eccentricities, and music. And his formula worked well at different venues. Boldly played his Ode to Manson, New Rising Sun at each club, and even in the hip-hop era, his quest to discover if his dad was Manson somehow created a perfect club ambiance for those 15 years. After a busy pre-Christmas weekend around 2002 at Gentleman's Club, Matt and I compared our no plans for the holidays and spontaneously decided to take a road trip. Matt wanted to scout out spots to buy property in Northern California, and I wanted to surprise my family by showing up for Christmas. So we grabbed some things and left, and I fell asleep all day while Matt drove. When I woke up that evening, we were way above the Bay Area and on our way to Oregon, and we stopped at Burning Falls in the middle of the night, and it started snowing. And the snow and the waterfalls were absolutely insanely breathtaking and the most beautiful shades of white, silver, blue, and black. It was like being inside the most beautiful holiday snow globe. I don't even know how we ended up there, but we did. We stood there most of the night freezing, but hypnotized by this beauty. Many hours later, we arrived at my mom's. By now, we were grungy from the road, and I asked my mom if it was Christmas, because I was with Matt, and he didn't know what day it was. And it was. And then Matt turned and explained to my family about the Manson dilemma. So my mom was convinced herself I was on drugs and in a cult, and she kind of pulled me inside and asked, what the hell is going on? And my response was, what would you do if Charlie Manson was your mom? She was on mute. She thought something sinister was happening. But Matt wasn't sinister. The only thing I knew he did that was sinister was injecting Kevin's gumballs with dirty fish water when they were kids. He would reflect on this and wonder if this was possibly the wicked Manson DNA at play. But his it factor read devilish to many. Matt quit one of the later clubs we worked at, but forgot his tarot cards in the DJ booth. The owner found them, shoved them in my face while frantically smudging the club, screaming, I knew he was satanic. Even his tarot cards, they really could cause a scene. So it's no surprise my car randomly failed me on the I-5 on the 3rd, and that my memories of Matt kind of flocked in during that hour pause. Felt like a fitting farewell to a one-of-a-kind friend.
All right, our next speaker was a friend of Matthew for 37 years and singer of their band Normandy. Play.
Well, 37 years is a long time, so I had to write this down just to get all my thoughts out. But thank you, Vicki, John, and Sergio for organizing this amazing event. I know that Matt would have really loved it. I know he loves it. And condolences to all of you. So I met Matt in 1987 and was his friend for 37 years. After a succession of drummers, he became our final drummer for my band Normandy. He was young, 18 years at the time. We were excited by his drumming. He played like he had 4 arms and turbo feet, a beautifully precise and exuberant cacophony. He made an immediate impact, a game changer, and injected new life into our band. When that band broke up, Matthew initially expressed his intent to become a singer-songwriter to our mutual friend Robert Weingartz, who became his music manager and enlisted my support. Back then, Matt said his singing was influenced by Robin Zander of Cheap Trick, being from his hometown of Rockford, Illinois, and by default myself, only because we rehearsed 7 days a week for years, and he had no choice but to listen to me day after day. His biggest performing influence was Richard Black of Shark Island. We talked about Richard Black many times. So I joined forces with Matt and Robert and helped him with some co-writing and some vocal production on his first collection of recorded songs, which I have. And I'm going to be getting that to Vicki. I'm going to digitize it and send it to Vicki. They're wonderful music. I'd wondered why, with such a phenomenal drummer, want to make this transition to singer, frontman. But I soon discovered the depth of his talent as he composed beautiful melodic passages on the piano and sang over the top in an emotive tenor voice. We were blown away by this newfound rush of creativity and moved together to Dallas, where there was a burgeoning alt-rock scene and where his friend Irv Carwellis had an indie label. We shared a roving communal existence we called the Mobile Music Family, but each of us, in our own way, found our way back to LA. And Matt's journey back to LA, I heard a couple stories. At one time he said he was playing for a country band in the Midwest and was involved in a bus accident. And Matt always had some strangeness that entered his life, and but he always laughed about it. I was like, country drummer, bus accident, what? But he made it back. Through the years, Matt and I remained close. He came to my wedding 20 years ago, and we stayed in touch. This is often made difficult by Matt's propensity to lose his cell phone, as all you have commented. In his context, so I would always have to track him down. With all that Matt experienced in his life, with his intense ongoing journey of self-discovery and musical evolution with New Rising Sun, we had a few pauses in our communication, but we would inevitably pick things right back up where we left off when we saw each other. I last saw Matt a few years ago in this rehearsal studio, where he played a great new song he had written with his old friend Robert. I last spoke to him at length several months ago about life and touched on some health issues I was having. And he reached out to me just a month ago, maybe even a few weeks. It was certainly not too far time before he died, asking me how my health was and was I doing okay? Because that's the way Matt was. He was concerned about your welfare before his own. Through it all, our crazy Hollywood lives, he remained a brother. Matt had a good heart. He was kind, gentle, sweet, and respectful. He shined with an inner radiance that was never diminished by darkness. He had a quirky sense of humor, observing the world in his own unique way. He was a deep thinker, questioning the reality of almost everything. He was a philosopher poet. His first song as a singer was called Forgotten History. In this song he sings, forgive me, I don't want to be another part of forgotten history, yeah. My 14-year-old daughter is playing this now on her Spotify. Matt, you will never be forgotten history. You will live on in your music, in our collective memory. The first song we wrote together ends after the final chorus with Matt speaking 3 words softly in resignation. He says, "What a life." Yes, what a life. But life was made better for many because you were in it, my friend. Rest in peace. Serenade us as an angel in our dreams. Matt, we miss you, and we will always love you.
Friend of Matthew for 20 years and his girlfriend, Shauna Brown.
And I actually had Normandy flyers, you know, and there were so many places that me and Matt had in common during that time period that I know that we must have passed each other. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know each other then, but there were so many places that we had in common. And fast forward from the late 80s in Sunset Strip, you know, now I'm in my 20s and I'm hanging out at Bar Sinister. And of course, you know, Matt, New Rising Sun, house band. I knew who he was. I saw him come in and I saw everybody point. You know what I mean? That's Charlie Manson's son, that's Charlie Manson's son. Everybody would be whispering, you know. And, you know, he always packed the house and I always had a blast. But I had my own, you know, crowd of friends, you know. I never hung out with him then, you know. One night after one of his shows, I went to an after party, whipped off all my clothes and got in the jacuzzi naked. He said people did that a lot, so it was okay. You know? So, anyways, I never knew him then, okay? Fast forward 10 more years, I am hanging out at Jimmy Bain's house. Jimmy Bain was the bass player from Dio. And Jimmy and Julie were good friends. And I had suffered a spinal injury that had made me extremely crippled at the time. I was pushing myself around and, you know, walker with rollers on it. And I ran into Matt, and Julie told me who he was, and I was like, that's not him, that's not, I know what that guy looks like, that's not him. He had lost so much weight, I didn't recognize him, you know, from when he was in New Rising Sun. And I said, hey, you know what, I think I got naked in your jacuzzi one night at one of your after parties, you know, and he was like, you know, people did that, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. So that was actually the opening to our, you know, conversation, you know. And like, he didn't care that I was crippled, you know, he didn't care, you know, we fell in love, you know, we spent, I know, every day together from that point on, you know, and I heard so much about you guys, you know, and you talk about Sean a lot, you know, anyway, okay, Matthew actually died of asphyxiation due to his lung condition that had developed as a result of the surgery on a rupture in the wall of his abdomen, hernia. He had been to the doctor several times. They had given him antibiotics several times. It just wasn't working. I didn't think that something like this would happen. I really didn't. Actually, we had the conversation once. I'm like, Matt, what if something happens to you? What am I going to do? You know, what would I do? He said, don't worry, that's not going to happen. He said, you know. Excuse me. I really appreciate every single person in this room that came. It means a lot to me. I appreciate Vicki, you know, so much. She's the goddess of the hostesses. We had a really tight-knit group of friends. You know, a lot of them are here tonight, you know. I appreciate that. I'm sorry, give me a second here. I'm trying to get my bearings here. There's a lady named Kim. Is she here right now? Kim? Oh, hey, how are you? Okay, she worked with Matthew on his genealogy, and they did a video, right? Okay, all right, so finding out everything about that, you know, was a big closure, you know, for a very, very deep story in his life. Because remember, when he started that journey, he just wanted to find his biological parents. He was engaged to Gina at the time, and she said, I want to know what nationality our children are going to be. You've got to find your biological parents, you know? And so he, you know, hired a service and went down that road and was told what he was told. You know, he thought, like, man, what a fucking mind fuck. You know what I mean? After all of this time and all of the things that had happened and all the correspondence that he had with Charlie, you know what I mean? Personally, to find out at the end of the day what he found out, you know? It was just an amazing thing that for any human being to fucking go through. Matt wanted to homestead. He had also bought a piece of property up in Val Verde, you know, his first RV. We spent a lot of nights under the stars. You know, a lot of people have asked about, you know, Matt and his partying habits. And honestly, GHB was the thing that he liked to do. It made him fuck like a beast, you know. And we spent a lot of nights under the stars in Val Verde doing that, you know. And I'm so glad that I have those nights now. I think about it all the time, you know. I can't remember what else to say at this point. I'm sorry. But I loved him very, 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 very much, and I was there the day that he died. It's awful. Nobody should have to go through that. Losing somebody that you're in love with is like the worst possible thing that you can go through. You know? I never thought that I would have to go through that with anyone, especially him. He had just accomplished so many things and was just like so happy to be moving on in life, you know? You know, he'd just gotten, you know, money issues taken care of, and, you know, he was like looking forward to the future. We had plans, you know? And this was really just so unexpected. I'd seen him about 15 minutes before this all happened. I was like, I'm going to meet you at the RV. And I get Catherine to meet you at the RV. And Charles drove him home and dropped him off. And then I got a phone call a few minutes later. And he said, Shauna, I need you to take me to the emergency room. I can't breathe. And I got in my car and I went like 90 miles an hour, you know, to get to him. And when I got to him, he was already gone. So, yeah. Anyways, this is really hard for me, you know, to do. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Friend of Matthew for 20 years, Raylene.
Good evening, everybody. Or mostly Shauna. I hope the Great Spirit holds you forever and ever in the palm of his hand for a loss that will never be recreated. John, Sergio, Vicky, for putting your hearts behind this, what we're experiencing now, a love for a friend. It was non-comparable. Free Spirit, to quote on Vicky, was my favorite part of Matt, is that he did things his way, always, and there was never a compromise in what his heart offered our world, and that was only ever love. To all of us left behind, thank goodness for every memory we have that can keep our hearts smiling forever, having known him. And I'd like to just say, if you knew Matthew Robert Lentz in any way, you knew magic. Thank you.
Good friend of Matthew since 7th grade, a guy by the name of Kevin A. Petit, was unable to attend, so he sent me his memory. I'm not calling it a eulogy. I'm not accepting that one yet. So this is from Kevin. He said, Dear Matt, This is another very difficult, devastating, life-changing event for me. I lost my mother exactly 2 years ago this month, and now you. This has all been so surreal, and please bear with me as I tell you all something about Matt and me that many of you may not know. Before we start, I need to apologize for not being able to be there with you all. Also, Matt and I had a falling out 5 years ago, and I left LA in 2020 because of the COVID hysteria, and despite, we still kept in touch. And that's why some of you might not know who I am and or have not seen me in a long time. Now, enough of this somber shit. Let's get to the good stuff. Matt was a brilliant mind in so many ways. I have been friends and best friends with Matt since 1980. We met in the 7th grade in sewing class. Yes, I said sewing class. We were the only 2 boys in the class, and we started talking and found out that we both loved fishing as Matt was making a fish pillow. We quickly bonded and became friends. Matt was one hell of a prankster. One time at his house after school, we were born and raised in Rockford, Illinois. Matt was actually born in Chicago and adopted and raised in Rockford as an infant. He gave me a Coca-Cola. When I took a big drink of it, it tasted like a strong pickle flavor. I nearly spit it out, and Matt busted out. As he admitted that he put pickle juice in my drink. Another time he gave me a gumball. And when I bit into it, it squirted some liquid in my mouth. I spit it out and said, "What the hell?" And he busted out laughing and said that he put his fish tank water in it. I said, "Yuck." And he said, "Just kidding, I used a syringe and put regular water in it." I have so many stories like that with him and all the crazy stuff that we used to do together. If you all only knew. I remember when he told me he wanted to learn how to play drums, inspired by his favorite band Rush and maybe a little Cheap Trick, because they were also Rockford natives. Matt always talked about Def Leppard's drummer Rick Allen and how crazy it was what happened to him. He learned to play very quickly, and I was amazed at how good he was and got in a short period of time. Then he started learning to play the piano. Even I started dabbling in music and started learning the piano and keyboards. We even jammed one time together in my short career in music, LOL. He must be young, I have no idea what the hell that means. He was in a cover band. I believe the name was In the Pink. But I went to just about every show, if not all of them. Matt often told me that he had graduated high school, that after he graduated high school, he was going to move to LA and go to MIT in Hollywood to study drums. And sure enough, he did in 1986. He would call me all the time on those pirate prepaid phone numbers. One day he told me, "Dude, you should move out here. I have a job and I'm making $5 an hour." And I said, "5 an hour? Wow." I was in Rockford working at Kinney Shoes, freezing my ass off, making $3.35. So I moved to Hollywood on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1988. Matt and his girlfriend, Gina, Chauncey, picked me up from LAX and welcomed me. I moved into his apartment off of Normandy in Melrose, in Hollywood with his friends Randy Peacock and Sean Murphy, also Rockford natives. From the moment I moved in, it was nonstop craziness. Man, the stories. Matt was a profound speaker. I used to cook a lot of food when I lived there. I had a barbecue grill. I used to cook 8 chicken breasts at a time. One day I made 2 pizzas, which was Matt's favorite. As Matt was leaving the apartment to go somewhere, I think Sean or someone took a picture of me, and Matt stopped and said, "Kevin, one day you're going to look back at this day and say to yourself, damn, I was fat." Or damn, I was skinny. In LA, Matt was in a number of bands, Normandy, Honey, and New Rising Sun, and maybe others, entertainment and musical projects throughout his career. On the side, he also worked many jobs in self-employed businesses. Matt and I lived together on numerous occasions. Left LA for a while in 92 or 93, moved to Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. I'd also left LA in 92, and we hooked back up in Atlanta in June of 94. He got me a job at the Holiday Inn in November of 94. We decided to move back to LA, so we did. We lived together the next 4 years. Matt always talked about finding his biological family, just so he could know his genealogy. And around 98, he got a message that the agency who was searching for his birth mother had found her. They told him that she had mental issues, and to just be aware of that when he contacted her. It was all true, and that's when things got deep with his birth mother. When his birth mother told him that he was possibly conceived and that his father may be Charles Manson. We were like, what? And one day at a party or an event, Matt was talking to a writer or something like that. And he was telling him about his adoption story, and the person said, do you mind if I shop your story? And Matt said, sure, why not? I know that there was times, and maybe even fully, he regretted ever doing it. That's when things really took off. Became big news worldwide and caused him to become somewhat of a celebrity, or at least a lot of notoriety. He was interviewed on the Howard Stern Show, Up Close with Anderson Cooper, In Touch Magazine, The Globe, TMZ, etc. I want to get something straight and understand about all the Manson stuff. Matt never tried to make money, profit, or sought to gain fame from it. I'm saying this because he was criticized and talked about badly on social media for simply sharing his sincere personal story. And I personally feel it took a toll on him. I think most of you know that it's been proven that Charles Manson is not Matt's biological father. So the story ends there, but he has a new story. It's also very interesting, and unfortunately we'll never be able to talk about it together. As I said earlier, Matt was a brilliant mind, and besides all his musical accolades, he was a writer, author, researcher, philosopher, tarot card reader, and master prankster. And close, there's so much to say about Matt, and there's not enough time here to give him the full justice he deserves. This is just a small snippet for everyone who didn't know a lot or much about him, or a refresher for those who did. He was a very gentle, free spirit soul, full of love for all people. He was a vegetarian. Mostly he would rescue insects and animals in trouble. And of course, he would give you the shirt off his back, or even his last dollar of food, if you needed it more than he did. And if you needed a place to stay or crash for the night, or even a few days that he could help, he would. And I know because he did it for me on numerous occasions. He did battle some demons and dark times in his life, as we all do. But he always battled through and kept his positive energy. Last thing, I want everyone to know that Matthew, next to my mother, was her soul. And family has been the most influential person in my life. Yes, 2 exclamation marks, but I'm not screaming that now. He taught me about twirls and fish tanks, rock music genres. He got me to LA and taught me the ropes. He got me my first job in the hotel business, taught me how to DJ, and got me a job DJing the day after I got fired from a hotel job I'd been on for years. Places to stay when I needed it, challenged and expanded my mind about this reality creation, who and what we are. God, we would have some very deep, serious, intellectual conversations, and you can read some of them in his book, The First Rays, The New Rising Sun. He was my number one guy to talk to about all that stuff. Thank you all for being here tonight in celebration of Matt's life and for allowing him to be a part of yours. Because in one way or another, you are very blessed in your own special way by him. Matt, once again, there are no words to describe what you meant to me. I always cherish and will be thankful for having you in my life and all you did for me. And will definitely miss being able to talk to you and hear your voice. Anytime you want to communicate with me, please feel free. Or until we meet again on the other side, you will always be in my heart. Brother, enjoy your freedom. Your brother from another mother, Kevin E. Please.
Hi, I'm Harry.
Hi, Harry.
And I'm an alcoholic. You know, I have to say this about Matt. He and I were nothing alike. Nothing alike at all. And but we were both a couple of strange motherfuckers. I'm better at fooling people. Matt and I were roommates also for quite a while. And it's funny because I hear a lot of mention of tarot readings here tonight, and Matt would insist that I pull his cards for his readings. Apparently I have a gift, and I still have my deck. And I might open it today in honor of Matthew. But apparently I nailed everything on the nose every time I would draw cards for him, about him, and he would translate it. And he would always tell me how much I'm blowing his mind. And being roommates, he was pretty perceptive about things that are sometimes taboo to speak about at a nightclub. But he recognized he identified three entities in our home that I knew were there. I've got voice recordings and photos and mind-blowing stuff that I don't brag about and I don't talk about on social media really. And one in particular, he said that there's a female attached to me that's waiting for me to die so we could be together. And I was like, isn't that something? A female I can't see is waiting for me. Great. Moving on from the supernatural gaga. Matt and I never got in a fight, never had a disagreement. He was a little introverted. I was a bit extroverted. Put me in front of two people and I hold court. Matt would just grimace and be a part of the crowd. And people would just think he was mysterious. But as weird as we both were, we felt normal whenever we'd be together. You know, because you reach a certain age and you're like, yeah, some of that stuff in my past makes sense now. Maybe I'm not right. And Matt and I were not right in all the good ways as friends. I saw him a couple months ago. I went grocery shopping, and lo and behold, there's Matt, grocery shopping. And we talked and caught up and everything else, and I told him how I've cheated death about 8 times in the past decade because we hadn't seen each other in a while. And he's like, man, I heard something, man. I heard that you died. And I'm like, I'm not that lucky. I'm still here fighting. And we also discussed just a couple of guys from Chicago talking in a Ralph's. Nothing weird about it. Also discussed the passing of a dear friend of mine who was also friends with Matt Pauline, also from Chicago. And we were talking about death, you know, and we weren't afraid of it. And I'm pretty confident that Matt wasn't, even in his last breath, afraid of it, you know. I'm gonna miss him. You know, I mean, yeah, I was a promoter, I am a promoter, and I used to book Matt a lot. And I will say this about his creative drive. He never passed up an opportunity to perform. Whenever I would call him to play a show, even if he couldn't put a band together at short notice, he would come and either perform to tracks or acoustic, or he'd put something together, you know. He was always up for a challenge, musically. And I respect that, because I'm just a lazy singer. I don't know how to play anything. I'm also a singer. I know wherever he is, that he has got, I got a feeling he's holding court. I think he's become an extrovert in the afterlife, and people are very curious to hear his story, which he has tons of stories. You know, and I'm grateful that I got to share those with him, being his roommate for a while and being his friend. And thanks to Vicki and those organizers who put this together today. Thank you. Give them a hand, please. I do a lot of these memorials, and let me tell you, it's not easy, you know. it's weird because Matt and I had that Chicago bond, brotherhood going on that preceded everything. Our differences of opinion, our different likes, our different dislikes. And at the end of the sentence, we were both brothers. And the last time I saw him, I took a photo of us, which I posted on my Facebook page. And that was the last time I saw him. And I said, I love you, bro. He goes, I love you too, man. And that was it. And I was very saddened to hear through John that he had passed, because I truly believe he had a lot more to do. You know? His mind never stopped. You know? Matthew, wherever you are, maybe you're hanging out in Chicago haunting somebody from your past, or if you're here, I love you, brother. Brothers to the end, man. And I'll see you soon. And please, Matthew, tell Pauline to love her as well. Thank you.
My name is Casey Jones. I've known Matt since I was 18 years old. He was 19 years old at the time. And I was the guitar tech and crew chief of Normandy. Clay, my brother Clay, was the lead singer of Normandy back in the day. So Matt and I spent a lot of time playing in major clubs all over in Los Angeles. A lot of time we got together with the crew and we all had to figure out how we were going to have a meal. We knew we had to do our job on the Strip for, playing our shows and making our ticket count responsibilities. He was my brother in every sense of the word. I have to say, we had a mobile music family that Clay referred to before. There's a bunch of us, road crew, managers, bands. We've been friends since then, since 87, 88. I wanted to say, because our older brother, Bob Weingarts, is not here, he's in Georgia. But I know he loved Matt. We didn't always get along because we were brothers. We quibble and whatever, but at the end of the day, we always leave the phone call, I love you. The great thing about Matt, even though I was his guitar tech, my aspirations was obviously to be a guitar player. And later on in life, started a band called Asphalt Messiah, and Matt actually ended up in the band playing keyboards. And then one of the great things that happened with us, we did open some major shows for major artists and sold out shows together. It was fantastic. But Matt went on to do some other things. Since then, I've got 5 boys, all born here in California. Matt knew all of them, which was really great. So he knew my family from the very beginning of who I was, 18 to now. I got 5 boys, 3 grandkids, all was doing great things. And a lot of times we wouldn't talk. We wouldn't talk for a year, 6 months, 2 years, but he'd always send me a message or a text message from whatever phone number he had, because he always had like 40 different phone numbers, right? And I go, excuse me, who the fuck is this? It's your brother, asshole. Oh, okay, well, if this is your number, I'll put it in. But then a month later, I had to figure out where he was with the new phone number, right? But he always sent me a message, hey, I'm proud of you. I see you guys are playing in arenas, that's cool. I see you had a grandchild, I'm proud of you. And that's one of the things about Matt, is he had a lot of wisdom, and he always was a big brother to me. Even though we were a year apart, he was always like, I'm your big brother, don't ever forget that shit, right? So I just remember being 18 years old, be on the Strip, a lot of bands there. I mean, it was crazy, 7 days a week on the Strip, right? Clay was nuts, right? Everybody competing to get on stage. And sometimes you got, fights with other bands because everybody was just trying to get to the same spot. But, so anytime they would give me shit on the Strip, Matt walk up behind me and go, are you fucking with my brother? Right? So he was my brother in every true sense of the word. It's awesome to see everybody here. I do know some of you, we've crossed paths over the years since like 88, 87, 87, 88. But again, thank you so much. I just wanted to spend a little time to express my love for him. I express my love for everybody who's here. That everybody that didn't know him, you have a very special relationship with him because it made everybody in this room feel special. Thank you. Love you. Thank you.
Friend of Matthew for 27 years, co-founder and bass player for the band New Rising Sun. John
Really shocked and saddened to hear
passing closest friends. Matt and I played in 3 bands throughout 14 years. 12 of those years were 2007. Matt and I lived together, co-founded, co-wrote a large percentage of the New Rising Sun songs at my home in Mission Hills. It was a fantastic time. We were good, songs were good, and we knew it. We always owned the crowd we played. We always owned the crowd that we played before. And we sold out lots of shows. The times we had, the stories I could tell were some of the seediest, darkest, and best times of my life. I've never forgot those memories. What it felt like to on the stage with Matt. Who was Matt? Trying to describe Matt is like trying to describe LSD to someone who's never done drugs before. There's just no words. I knew Matt better than anyone in those days. Without getting into too much detail, he was eccentric, a great musician, singer, songwriter. He had the gift, but he also had a tortured soul. Matt was an orphan, grew up in Chicago to parents that adopted him. There are times when this man would literally find a bug in our home and walk it outside to live another day. Matt understood suffering and would give his shirt off his back, although he had nothing. In all those years I saw Matt, in all those years I never saw Matt lose his temper. We would discuss everything, helped each other through tough times, loss, heartbreak. He could play just about any instrument. He couldn't go 1 week without losing his phone or forgetting what time sound check was. He was so aloof about certain things, I would get so angry with him. But since I've known him, I never once saw him lose his temper. Matt musically took me to the next level. He wrote great songs, and both our lives were made good again after painful losses during these times. Those years were the best times of my life. I'll never forget you, Matt. You were as vulnerable as you were authentic, and that's right. I love you, brother, and I will never forget you and the rock star lives that we lived. For those few moments on stage, we were gods. And to you, Matt, I say Godspeed.
This is really, honestly, so special that I'm seeing so many human beings that Matt touched, and touched in a way that they are willing to come out tonight and spend their time here. I wasn't planning to talk tonight, and it's really hard for me emotionally to express a lot of my feelings. I'm still really managing them through understanding his passing. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to let Rebecca talk. She's a dear friend of Matt's. And then after that, I'll talk.
It's so hard for me. It's hard for me to even talk about it. So Matt and I share a very similar story. I don't know if anybody's heard it, but it's very similar. We both were adopted and out to families and didn't know where we came from at all, and we had that bond with each other. And at one point, we had thought we had shared the same father, even though genetically we weren't sure. And I guess, well, we always expected to be able to find them, but we couldn't, and we shared that bond. It's very lonely to have that, and it's very hard to put into words, but it's something that we both shared, and all he talked about was Gina Chauncey. I can attest to. But no, more than that, Matt was amazing. He was a great human being. He always made sure I had somewhere to stay and vice versa. We were very, very close. I can't even believe this happened. It's really shocking and awful. And
Listen, I'm going to take over because I can see she's emotional, as we all are. Okay. Listen, I met Matt when I was, I don't know, it's kind of confusing in my mind. She would have been 18, I would have been 19, I would have been 20, he would have been 19, I don't know. But we met each other on a thing called, back in the day in Hollywood, a party bus. And so this was a big bus that would take, you would buy tickets, and you would go to 4 clubs. On this bus, you could drink, you could do whatever, because the driver was there. And it would take you like 4 clubs within that night. And I was living in Long Beach, and a girlfriend of mine bought these tickets. We went up there, look at those pictures of us, and got on this bus to go to these clubs, to go party. We were 18 years old, whatever, and have a good time. And we got on this bus, we started going to these clubs. There was a driver, and there was this kid who was Matt. And he was like the guy that was supposed to take care of all the people on the bus. But he was so young, and he had just moved from Illinois to California, and he was just a baby. And I met him on that bus. He was so shy. He couldn't even talk. Like, I couldn't even get him to talk to me. He was super shy and super insecure, and I was super confident and crazy. And somehow or another, I got him to sit with me, and I got him to talk with me. And somehow or another, I was so attracted to this shy boy that at the end of the clubs, we ended up in front of Cantor's in Hollywood. And I remember we were standing out there, everybody had left. And we turned to each other and we kissed. And those are all pictures of us, by the way. And I don't know how to explain the measure of magic that it felt like, but we were connected. And at the time, he lived in Hollywood, and I lived I lived in the South, and we just kept in contact, and quickly I moved up there. He was living with boys that he was with from his childhood, like Kevin and Sean, and Kevin was just the guy that read his feelings about Matt, and we all moved in together, and it was beautiful. And Matt taught me about so many things. He taught me about animals and animal rights, and being a vegetarian, and caring about the earth, and caring about all of it. Like, just, Matt was just one of the deepest thinkers I ever met. He and Kevin, our roommate, his best friend from being a child, became, they did so much work, I can't even think of the word right now. Babe, tell me. So much work to become citizens that were not like, they were just such beautiful people. They always had these feelings of questioning everything, making sure that they believed in what was right and what was wrong. And they were so deep in all their belief systems. And Matt was the guy that, my biggest mentor, my biggest, I don't even know how to explain it. He was just the guy that really brought me the music. We started a band together. We called it Honey. We toured and played and did so many things together. I mean, I would literally tell Matt a situation from my childhood, and the next day he would show up with a song that was so beautifully written with just what I told him. Just, it wasn't. All right, anyways, this man, sorry. This guy was a life changer for me. Beautiful human being.
But Matthew was one of the guys who actually wanted to know, not for any other reason, but just so on a factual level, he can say, this is where I came from. Not where he belongs. Because we've heard everybody here tonight talk about he belonged to them and they belonged to him. But where he came from, just the facts. He was able to find someone who was actually able to fulfill that bucket list. Wow, I just said bucket list, and I mean literal, because he just found it out recently. Kim Vaughn has known Matthew for 14 years. She is a genetic genealogist, and she was able to identify for Matthew his biological father.
In 2010, I was on the phone with my mother trying to get information about the man she claimed was my father when another call came through. And I said, Mom, I have to go. Charles Manson's son is on the phone. I sat there for a minute wondering what in the world happened that led these words to come out of my mouth. Little did I know that over a decade later, I would use genetic genealogy to show Matthew that he was not Charles Manson's son, and to help him find his true biological identity. For over a decade, I followed Matthew's story, and I related very closely to what he was going through. The information his mother gave him was like a vacuum that pulled him in a direction he never asked to go. But he followed the information to get answers. I know how frustrating it was for him to have things stand in the way of getting the answer to the question, is he my father? But Matthew kept taking every opportunity to find the truth. 2 years ago, I decided to follow up with him And it was clear that his search had only succeeded in creating more questions than answers, and he had very little trust left for anyone on the matter. I know that it was only because I had contacted him so many years earlier that he let me explain that there was a way to find his answer and that I could find it for him. Matthew was involved every step of the way in the months that it took to unravel the facts. When the answer was confirmed, we spent 2 days together going over his entire biological family tree, and I was able to show him how he was related to each person going back many generations. It was such a relief for him to finally know his genetic history and to be free from the questions and doubt. He wanted to be the one that shared his story. He wanted to share it publicly, but he didn't want anyone to control the narrative. It took over a year before he chose Daze with Jordan the Lion to finally tell his story, and he asked me to be there with him so I could help set the record straight. His plan just one moment. In the days after the video posted, he was very happy with how it turned out. His plan was to use this as a platform to help him share all that he had been through to find out who his biological father was and where that journey led him. But that video turned out to be his last words on the subject, and his words are the only reliable source regarding how Matthew felt about what he wanted and what he would get it. In one of our last phone calls after the video posted, I was reading some nice comments to him from the people that watched it. He was pleased to know that so many people showed love and support for him, and they were happy he finally found the truth. He'd taken the first step in shedding the dark shadow that had been cast on him for so long. One thing I've learned from Ancestry is that time waits for no one. I don't understand why this story had to end this way, but I take comfort in knowing that he had the answers that he was looking for, and that he got to declare his truth. And I'm so thankful that I got to be a part of that. And Jordan, thank you too for making all that. This is my son, Daze. He was my only witness to my relationship with Matthew.
2 Saturdays before Matthew passed away, I'm Sergio Medina again.
Hi, Sergio.
One of the 3 hosts, and I'm an alcoholic. Celebrated 34 years of sobriety this week. Celebrated on Thursday. I got sober at 17, and I was thinking over the last 6 months, I'm really excited about being sober, like September 19th, because I'm going to celebrate 2/3 of my life having been sober, which is kind of cool. And then Matthew fucking dies and just takes it out. It's like, thanks, Matthew. I've had a last few weeks that have been incredibly painful. I came here, by the way, I wanted to know if the owner, the boss over here, Trisha LaBelle, wanted to speak. I was told that was a possibility. Okay, she's not here. So you're stuck with me again, I apologize. 2 Saturdays before Matthew passed away was the first time I came to Bar Sinister. He told me that his good friend Vicky Hamilton, and I knew who that bitch was. You see, every Thanksgiving, Matthew would come over to my home, but he was never on time because he was always going to Vicky's house first. And I found out in the last couple weeks, Vicky explained she served a tofu turkey. she actually respected Matthew for being a pescatarian. Now that I'm vegan, I completely understand that I was such a dick. So 2 Saturdays before, she told me, I'm going to Bar Sinister. Vicky's got this band over there. Do you want to come? I said, sure, I'm bringing my daughter. And that's why I was here. The following, he had problems with parking and says, you know, if I have my RV parked, if I get my motorcycle fixed, I can park my RV anywhere I want, and then I can just use my motorcycle, except I need money for some parts. And when Matthew, I was like, I'll pay for it, not a problem. But are the plates the only part that you need? They were the wrong plates. So I ordered new plates, and then at Bar Sinister that Saturday, he said he needed tables, and they came in the following Saturday, which is why I went and saw him 3 days before his passing, to talk about some exciting news regarding work that benefited him. I want to start off, and 3 days later, I got a phone call. I was picking up my son from school. His class got out at 10 p.m. At 9:56 p.m., I got a phone call from Shauna. Thank you so much, Shauna, for that phone call. She called me up telling me that Matthew, she thought, was dead, and I said, he's not dead until I confirm. I dropped my son off. I picked my son up about 9 minutes later, 11 minutes later, excuse me, it was 10:07, I'll remember these times. 10 minutes later, I dropped him off at home. 10 minutes later after that, I was walking into the ER. Kept in contact with Shauna where she was telling me she thought he was dead. That he called her, said he was having a hard time breathing. By the time she got there, his lips had turned blue. And 911 were being assholes when she called them when she was doing CPR on them. Finally, the ambulance showed up. They did CPR and took him to the hospital, which is the information I got before walking into the ER at Valley Presbyterian Hospital on September 3rd. I told them that I was a friend of Matthew, that I wasn't sure if he was dead or not. Nurse came out, grabbed me, pulled me to the back, put me in a conference room, said a doctor would be with me shortly. A doctor came shortly and said Matthew had passed away without giving a cause of death. 45, he asked if I wanted to see the body. I said yes. 45 minutes later, I saw the body. When I say body, I mean I wasn't Matthew, because Matthew wasn't the physical being. He was the spirit, the energy, the love. I'm not sure if my wife and our 2 children adopted Matthew, or if he adopted us. Maybe in search of a familial connection, or simply being around people who loved him for who he was and nothing more. He was the sweetest and most generous of all. He had musical talent that was undeniably from out of this world, which is why it was such a pleasure and honor to have worked with him on 2 songs that I had in my newest film style movie. He was smart as hell, holding conversations where I was barely holding on by a thread to simply understand their complexities. But if you knew him, you also knew he had zero comprehension of time. We would regularly run a 20-minute errand for 2 hours. But of course, when asked, I jumped at the opportunity to drive him on another errand because I knew this one wouldn't just take another hour. And those 1 hours took 4. And for those 4 hours, we were able to hang out. And every year, well, I met him 21 years ago. Through somebody mutual, knew I was looking for music for a movie, and said, this band, New Rising Sun, they gave me a demo. The following day, I gave him a call because his name was on the demo, and we met. So I've known him for 21 years, which wasn't impressive compared to the other people that are speaking. He had relationships that lasted a very long time. Every year, he would always show up late to Thanksgiving, as I mentioned a moment ago, and he'd always come to Christmas at my home. Though he was late, he did still show up. My daughter and Matthew shared the same birthday, and we would celebrate them together to make sure he wasn't late. We would pick him up. A while back, I was sick for a few years, and 2 of those years were tough. I had daily seizures, and multiple times a day, I stopped breathing for no reason. My organs were shutting down. And I spent most of that time in ambulances, heading to the hospital, simply laying in a hospital bed, hoping to die. Because the pain was unbearable. I was so sick, I don't remember most of that period. I've been sober now 34 years, since I was 17, but those couple of years were a flashback to when I drank to a complete blackout. The secondhand stories are all I have of that period of time in my sobriety. The other day, while reminiscing about Matthew with my wife, she told me how during that time, he would show up at her home regularly. I don't remember any of this. Just to be there, sometimes playing the piano and sometimes not. Sometimes playing to entertain the family and just other times just there. Or he'd meet up with my wife at a coffee shop so she could vent her anguish, frustration, and fear about losing me without scaring the shit out of her children. And he was there and he listened. He listened to her for as long as she needed, and when they scheduled those meetings, he was never, ever late. He became my surrogate for those years because my children's dad and my wife's husband, being my children's dad and my wife's husband, which simply meant for 24 months, Matthew did not get laid and accepted he was wrong about everything. To be clear, I cleared that joke with my wife and she was okay with it and said Matthew would think that one was funny as well. Here's a list of 5 questions I have for you. Don't answer them. Just think about the answer. Name the 5 wealthiest people in the world. Name the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners. Number 3, can you name the last 5 winners of the Miss America pageant? Number 4, name 10 people who have won the Nobel or Pulitzer Prize. Name the last half dozen Academy Award winners for Best Actor and Actress. Throw out number 6. Name the last decade's worth of World Series winners. How did you do? The point is none of us remember the headliners of yesterday. There are no second-rate achievers in that list. They are the best in their fields. But the applause dies, awards tarnish, achievements are forgotten, accolades and certificates are buried with their owners. Here's another quiz. See how you do on this one. Number 1, list a few teachers who aided your journey through school. Name 3 friends who have helped you through a difficult time. Number 3, name 5 people who have taught you something worthwhile. Number 4, think of a few people who have made you feel appreciated and special. And number 5, think of 5 people you enjoy spending time with. Is that easier? See, the lesson is the people who make a difference in your life are not the ones with the most credentials, the most money, or the most awards. They simply are the ones who care the most. I thank you all for being here. I want to thank my friends and family for knowing Matthew, so I don't have to go through this. So I don't have to go through this loss alone. And I want to thank you all for your time. Much love to you. And so I heard something. It says, when you wait for someone for a few minutes, it's your need. For a few hours, it's your trust. When you wait for someone for a few weeks, it's your friendship. But to wait when you know the person will not come is your love. People say never expect anything in return from anyone. But the truth is, When we really love someone, we naturally expect a little care and love from them. Everyone you meet is a part of your journey. But not all of them are meant to stay in your life. Some people are just passing through to bring you gifts. Either they're blessings or lessons, and in this journey, you must learn to appreciate the transient nature of relationships. Understanding that each encounter has its purpose, shaping your character, teaching you resilience, and preparing you for the deeper connections that lie ahead. Matthew, thank you for being in my life. Even if for just a short period of time. You are now gone, but you will forever remain the wise, sweet, and compassionate individual I've had the pleasure of knowing. I love you. And again, thank you all for coming to celebrate Matthew's life. We'll have some live music next.